Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 5 p.m. podcast. It's Dan here, and as always, I'm joined by the one and only Tina.
Hey Dan, happy to be here. And folks, if you thought last week's discussion on political campaign was intense, just wait until you hear what we've got for you today. It's January 23rd, 2025, by the way.
Oh yeah, today's topic is a doozy. We're diving deep into something that, on the surface, seems like a simple gesture, but actually has layers upon layers of political and historical significance.
That's right. We're talking about the letter. The now famous transition letter from former President Joe Biden to the current president, Donald Trump.
And for those who might have missed it, this isn't just any letter. We're talking about a tradition that goes back decades, right, Tina?
Exactly. This tradition started with Ronald Reagan leaving a note for George H.W. Bush back in '89. It's become this symbolic passing of the torch. A moment of unity in the often divisive world of politics.
And usually, these letters are super private, like top secret, eyes only kind of stuff. The outgoing president leaves it for the incoming president in the Oval Office, and it's meant to be this personal message of advice, encouragement, maybe even a warning or two.
Right, but this time, things went a little differently. This time, President Trump decided to share the contents of Biden's letter with the public.
Which, if you think about it, is kind of a big deal. I mean, we're talking about a break from a long-held tradition of privacy.
So Dan, what did the letter actually say? I know our listeners are dying to know.
Okay, so according to Trump, Biden's letter was addressed to number 47 feet, a nod to Trump being the 47th president now. And the main message was, surprisingly, supportive. He told Trump to enjoy it and do a good job. And he emphasized how important the role of the president is.
Enjoy it. That's not what I expected, given their, shall we say, complex times political history.
I know, right? It's kind of like, imagine your biggest rival giving you a pat on the back and saying, "Go get him, champ." It's a bit surreal.
But also, maybe, a sign of respect? Like, despite everything, acknowledging the weight of the office and the responsibility that comes with it.
That's a good point. It's like, no matter what your political beliefs are, being the President of the United States is a huge deal. And maybe Biden was recognizing that, putting aside their differences for a moment.
So what's been the reaction to all this? Are people applauding this moment of civility? Or are they raising eyebrows at the whole disclosure thing?
It's been a real mix, to be honest. On one side, you've got people saying, hey, it's nice to see some respect between political opponents. They see it as a glimmer of hope in our divided times.
And on the other side?
Well, on the other side, there's a lot of debate about Trump's decision to reveal the letter's contents. Some are saying it's a breach of trust, that he violated the spirit of this private tradition.
I can see both sides, honestly. On the one hand, transparency, right? Letting the public in on what's usually a behind-closed-doors moment. But on the other hand, was it Trump's place to share something that was meant to be a personal message?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what was Trump's motivation here? Was he trying to show that he has Biden's support, in a way? Or was it more about, controlling the narrative?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And what about the media's take on this? I imagine they've had a field day.
Oh, they have. It's been all over the news, with analysts dissecting every word, every implication. Some are focusing on the content of the letter itself, while others are more interested in the implications of it being made public.
I saw one headline that called it an unexpected olive branch, which, is a nice image.
And then you have the social media reactions, which are, as always, a wild ride. Everything from, this is a sign of political maturity, to, this is just another political stunt.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how one letter can spark so much discussion? It really shows how much we, as a society, care about these political traditions and what they represent.
And it makes you think, what does this mean for future transitions? Will this set a new precedent? Will future presidents now feel like they have to share these letters? Or will they become even more secretive to avoid this kind of situation?
That's what I've been wondering. Like, imagine being a future president, writing one of these letters and thinking, okay, what I write here could end up on the front page of every newspaper.
It might make these letters a lot more formal, less personal. Which would be a shame, in a way. I mean, wasn't the whole point of keeping them private to allow for some genuine, heartfelt advice from one leader to another?
Exactly. It's like, if you know your private letter might become public, are you going to be as candid? As honest? Probably not.
So Tina, what's your take on all of this? After everything we've talked about, where do you stand?
Well, it is a tough one. I genuinely appreciate the sentiment behind Biden's letter. I think in these times, any gesture of goodwill across the political aisle is important. But I'm also a bit wary of what this means for the future. I wouldn't want these letters to become just another part of the political theater, you know?
I'm with you there. It's like, on the one hand, I want to believe in the possibility of civility, even between rivals. But on the other hand, I can't help but wonder if this whole thing is going to have unintended consequences down the line.
And what about you, Dan? What's your final verdict?
I think it's a reminder that even in the world of politics, there are still human moments. That letter, at its core, was a human gesture. And while I'm not sure about Trump's decision to publicize it, I do think the message itself, about the importance of the presidency, is something we should all keep in mind.
Well said, Dan. And to our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think Trump was right to share Biden's letter? What do you think this means for the future of presidential transitions?
Yeah, let us know what you think. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms. And as always, thanks for tuning in to the 5 p.m. podcast. We'll be back next week with more deep dives into the world of politics.
Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Bye, everyone.